Hello everyone and welcome back. If you are new here, I'm happy that you are joining us. This week's meals were easy to make, the first being this chickpea, sweet potato, and lentil soup. A soup like this usually lasts all week, and I typically prepare it on a Sunday evening, so it's ready to go whenever we need a bowl of something warm to eat. Once the onions are cooked down, this is where I add the spices. For this soup, I used a combination of paprika, cumin, ginger, turmeric, and coriander. It gives an earthy flavor to the soup and smells absolutely amazing once it all combines with the oil and the onions. Toasting spices first in this way helps the flavor to really come out, especially in long cooking dishes like a soup. You can use either canned chickpeas or, like I have right here, some soaked chickpeas that I cooked down a little bit just so that it's easier to dissolve within the soup. Once you put the sweet potatoes in and add a few more vegetables like some tomatoes, you'll have the perfect base to add your stock. It is important to cover the vegetables with at least a ½ inch of water or stock, since the lentils will absorb much of the liquid as it cooks. When I don't have homemade stock available, I use stock paste that I keep in the fridge, which dissolves very quickly. When the soup was done, I decided to add some spinach that I had left over just for an extra nutritional boost. As soon as I put that in, I used a hand blender to puree the soup just a bit in order to achieve a smoother texture. The soup came out exactly as I wanted it, nice and thick and absolutely necessary to pair it with a piece of bread to sop up all the goodness. Have been dipping, but we still have a few pleasant days. When the weather starts to change like this, I begin to lean more towards meals that take little effort and can be roasted in the oven. I had some seasonal vegetables on hand, like this pumpkin and random potatoes, and 2 apples, which I figured could be roasted along with everything else. After a simple seasoning of salt, pepper, and some olive oil, the tray was ready to go in the oven. that overcrowding vegetables on one roasting tray leads to less roasting and more steaming. So I outfitted myself with several sheet pans for this reason, so that the vegetables can roast as they are supposed to. We buy steak in bulk, and I am preparing half of it to be roasted alongside the vegetables. Again, there is just a simple seasoning of salt, pepper, and olive oil, making sure they roast on a rack so that the juices flow and the heat wraps around the entire cut of meat. For a meal like this, I always prepare a fresh salad right at the table. It freshens up everyone's plates, and for my girls, it gives them a side that I know they will eat. Filling their plates have become routine at this point, so I make sure they each have a bit of everything. As you just saw, I finally made the decision to bring in some of my tender plants. Though we've had some unusually warm days, I've learned that it can go to frost very quickly, and I'm really trying to save my plants this year. For tonight's meal, I am preparing a simple chicken stew with dumpling spinners, something I learned from my father-in-law. The flour from the dumplings help to thicken the soup, which makes it that much more enjoyable to eat. But first, the chicken must be browned in order to get that beautiful brown crust that will make the soup that much more flavorful. The rest of the ingredients are typical for chicken soup, such as onions, carrots, celery, and garlic. I don't chop them too fine for a stew, as larger chunks make it easier to serve with the chicken and rice. Once the chicken is done browning, I remove them and leave the brown bits in the pot. Once the vegetables begin to saute, those brown bits will come up and mix in with the vegetables as they cook, which just adds more flavor. I do like to add in some white wine to deglaze anything that involves chicken, as I find that it helps to meld all the ingredients together. The aromatics come next, and for this I ripped up some dried bay leaves and crumbled some dried thyme I always have hanging. Once the wine cooks down, I add enough water to cover the chicken and mix in some bouillon. To make the dumplings, all you need is a few tablespoons of flour, some salt, and a cup of water to drizzle in. The trick is to add just enough water to work into a somewhat sticky dough. After that, you just pick off some pieces and roll them into little oval shapes. Once the dumplings are in, I do like to add some broth to the remaining flour in the bowl. Sometimes I add a bit of cornstarch, and this just helps to thicken up the soup that much more. And again, soup calls for some fresh bread. I had taken out this sourdough from the deep freeze, and I can't wait to soak up all the broth with a slice of this bread. Once Friday came and the laundry was started, I began to prepare some kebabs, making sure I soaked the wooden skewers first, as this prevents them from burning. Kebabs are usually done on the barbecue, and to be honest, it was so warm that we could have done just that. But the barbecue was already put away, so I decided to try and make them for the first time in the oven. And I'm glad I did, since they came out amazing. Since I made this meal on a Friday and we aim to eat fish on Fridays, I prepared 2 kinds of kebabs, one with the leftover steak for my poor husband who is allergic to fish, and the rest with shrimp. The onions and peppers accompanied both. Taking the extra time to sit and arrange these kebabs was actually pretty relaxing, which is exactly what I needed after a long work week. transformed the extra chickpeas that I had from earlier in the week into something that rivals mashed potatoes, but I think it is even better. I learned this idea many years ago from Nigella Lawson, who is one of my favorite chefs, and the simplicity and ease of the dish has made this on constant rotation. All you do is saute some garlic and add in either cannellini beans or chickpeas, canned or soaked and cooked a bit, and as they warm through, the garlic blends with the beans and it all turns into a big lumpy mush, lighter than potatoes but just as tasty. Thought serving up this meal was going to be easy, but of course I was wrong. Each of my girls wanted a true surf and turf plate with some steak and shrimp, and who am I to deny them? Extra kebabs are easily wrapped in some foil, ready to be reheated the next day for lunch. Though the steak kebabs might last a bit longer, seafood is different, and so these shrimp kebabs are definitely on the menu tomorrow. With that, I wish you all a happy and healthy week and many blessings to you and yours. See you back here soon.